Oh, g'day. Okay, I'd like to discuss the geometry of the body, as in DNA, hormones, the atomic structures, the designs of thought that manifest the body or are manifestations within the body. Okay, so we're going to start off with some acronyms. Now, BODY, B-O-D-Y, as an acronym, stands for Being of Direct Yield. Being of direct yield. Direct yield. A being of direct yield. Direct yield from what? Being of direct yield. Now, being, as an acronym, stands for Brain Expressed Intelligent Natural Guise. B-E-I-N-G. Brain Expressed Intelligent Natural Guise. Natural guise. Reflection of nature. Guise of nature. Brain expressed. Now, brain as an acronym is body related, active, intelligent nemesis. Body related, active, intelligent nemesis. Nemesis, in this regard, means cause and effect. Product of cause and effect. Body related, active, intelligent nemesis. Okay, so now let's look at DNA. The structure of DNA, the atomic structure of DNA. So, first of all, we have the spiral backbone of DNA. Well, we'll start with the spiral backbone of DNA anyway. It's formed by tetrahedron pyramids. Tetrahedron pyramids. Phosphates. Tetrahedron pyramids. Now, a tetrahedron pyramid has 4 equilateral triangle facets. 4 equilateral triangle facets. It doesn't have a different base to its sides. They are all equilateral triangles. Now, the equilateral triangle, in the language of thought, designs of thought, represents creative thought or imagination. Creative thought or imagination. So it's all equilateral triangle facets. It's a pure expression of creative thought or imagination. Now it's a sense. Pyramids, all pyramids represent a form of sense. Sense labels, recognizes and recalls memory. It categorizes memory. It visualizes thoughts. Sense visualizes thoughts. Labels, recognizes and recalls memory. Focused creative thought, focused imagination, a visualization is focused imagination. That's what a visualization is. Focused imagination, focused creative thought. Represents common sense. Now it's an unbiased form of sense. That's why we're calling it common. It's unbiased. It's not based on anything in particular. It's just a pure expression of creativity or imagination. A visualization. An unbiased visualization. Which means what? Well, let's find out. Okay, now the rungs of DNA are formed by pentagons of motive, personal thought or consciousness, and hexagons. Now, hexagons of love, which is unconditional acceptance. So I'm going to use the term unconditional acceptance because it helps to understand what I'm going to talk about. Our idea of love is all over the place. Very rarely means unconditional acceptance. Most of the love that we talk about is conditional. But unconditional acceptance. Now a hexagon is formed by two overlapping equilateral triangles of creative thought, which is interactive or experiential creative thought, experience-based imagination, experience-based creativity. That's what a hexagon is. It's a product of experience-based creativity or imagination. So, unconditional acceptance: forms, programs, reflex responses, and impulses. Now, a reflex response and an impulse is a program. It's been programmed thought. Okay, so on those rungs of DNA, we have pentagons of motive, personal thought, or consciousness connected to those tetrahedrons. So we're talking about, what does it visualize? Well, a pentagon represents motive, personal thought, or consciousness. So it visualizes motive, personal thought, or consciousness. It's a personal visualization or a conscious visualization. Visualization of consciousness. Visualization of personal thought. A personal visualization. DNA creates the body. A personal visualization. That's what it represents in the dream, which helps us to understand, because geometry is all about, it's a language that we use to define us, to understand us, to understand the dream. Just a visualization of thought, a virtualized environmental construct, an interactive visualization of conscious thought. That's what life is. Visualization of thought. Okay, now if we, as we said, hexagons are programs. Okay, when we're looking at atoms and molecules and all sort of stuff, we refer to a hexagon as a program. So, if we have a hexagon connected to a pentagon by, say, 2 points or an edge or a side of that polygon, motive, personal thought, or consciousness, the pentagon. So it's a personal program, or personally programmed. Now, subconscious is personally programmed. So that would represent a subconscious program. If we have a hexagon by itself, it would represent an unconscious program, or impersonal program, not personalized, not personally programmed. Okay, now if we have the hexagon connect to a pentagon by a point, just a point, not a side, just one point. Okay, so that becomes a program linked to motive, personal thought, or consciousness. It's linked. It's not personally programmed, but it's a program linked to motive, personal thought, or consciousness. Now on those rungs, we have separate hexagons and we have hexagons connected to pentagons. Programs, unconscious or impersonal, and personalized programs, subconscious programs. Motivational programming. Motivational programming. So DNA geometrically symbolizes a visualization of consciousness, or a visualization of motivational programs. Motivational programming, conscious programs, programmed consciousness. A visualization of programmed consciousness. That's what DNA is. But that's what it represents in geometric form within the dream state. Everything within the dream is symbolic of a way of thinking, a design of thought, state of mind. It's all symbolic. It's just a dream. It's a visualization of thoughts. Now, let's look at hormones. Hormones, geometrically, atomic structures, molecule, has hexagons and pentagons. Now it has hexagons by themselves, which are on unconscious or impersonal programs, but it also has pentagons connected to hexagons, subconscious programming. Hormones are motivational programs and non-motivational programs. So, hormones and DNA, but they don't have squares of intellect within those structures. And intellect is receptive and constructive, takes on board and builds upon concepts. It accumulates thoughts, forms memory. Accumulates thoughts, forms memory. But we don't have the squares of intellect represented in DNA or in hormones. They're just motivational programming and visualizations of motivational programming. Okay, where do we find squares of intellect then within our bodily structure? Porphyrins. Porphyrins. Now the word porphyrin means purple. Purple. A basic porphyrin has 4 pentagons focused inward to form a square within those 4 pentagons. A point of each of those pentagons creates the points of a square within those 4 surrounding or external pentagons. Receptive and constructive, takes it on board and builds upon concepts. The surrounding polygons or structures are pentagons of motive, personal thought or consciousness. Receptive and constructive, takes it on board and builds upon personal thoughts, personal agendas. Conscious intelligence. Porphyrin is conscious intelligence, takes on board and builds upon personal thoughts, personal agendas. Okay, now if we put a point in the center of the square of intellect, at the center of those 4 pentagons of motive, personal thought or consciousness, it creates an agreement of intelligence, an agreement of intellect. Okay, an agreement. Now the basic porphyrin, without that agreement, if you create a solution out of those basic porphyrins, it is purple, because a basic porphyrin is receptive and constructive, receptive to certain frequencies of light. The basic porphyrin is receptive to and accumulates, receptive and constructive, takes on board and builds upon ultraviolet light. Takes on board and builds upon ultraviolet light, accumulates ultraviolet light. Now, our mainstream thinking is that a porphyrin is a pigment. We don't seem to think it's any more than a pigment. That's not really correct. If you go across to a chlorophyll in plants is a porphyrin. It has a magnesium atom in the center of that square of intellect, forms an agreement. An agreement. Agreement of intelligent consciousness, conscious intelligence. Magnesium. It forms the green pigment in plants. But chlorophyll allows a plant to absorb energy from the sun. It's like a solar panel. It allows plants to form energy from the sun. That's what that porphyrin does. Now within our body, We have porphyrins as well. But the point at the centre of that square of intellect is iron. It forms a red pigment, the colour of blood. Colour of blood. Now, who's to say that doesn't take on board and build upon energy? Everything's energy. Thought is energy. So light is energy. Frequencies of light are just energy by design. Purposed energy. Purposed energy. I said the porphyrin in plants has a purpose. Take on board and build upon that particular frequency of energy that the plant uses. It creates its colour. It creates its colour, its characteristics, its hue, characteristics. Who's to say that the iron atom, the centre of heme, because that's what the molecule of heme within hemoglobin, as in blood, is that porphyrin with an iron atom forming that agreement. It's like an agreement to take on board and build upon that particular energy, that frequency of energy. An intellectual agreement of consciousness takes on board and builds upon personal thoughts. Fascinates me. Now, there are other porphyrins within the body, not just in blood. From what I have researched, apparently there are porphyrins in all cells of the body. Different types of porphyrin. You still have heme in other particular substances within the body, other than blood. Okay, so we have DNA, hormones, programs, motivational programming, visualizations of consciousness, of personal visualization. Then we have porphyrins. Now, the body symbolically, as a symbolic representation of a state of mind, a way of thinking, a design of thought, is showing us that that energy is in that blood. That consciousness, that receptivity, takes on board and builds upon concepts, is in the blood. So the brain doesn't function unless it has blood. That's memory. It accumulates personal thoughts, conscious thought. It's memory. Without memory, the body doesn't function. Interesting. Interesting. So the brain, we thought the brain was that form of intelligence. Apparently not. Not as far as geometric structure goes, as far as designs of thought, language of mind, symbolic representation within the dream state. It's blood. And not just blood, it's porphyrins. Porphyrins themselves. Receptive and constructive, takes on board and builds upon personal thoughts, personal agendas, conscious thoughts. Blood as an acronym. Body logic of omniscient development. Body logic. Logic is memory. An accumulation of thoughts. Sort of makes you think, doesn't it, about the blood, how important it is. And in ancient cultures, they had a sort of a fascination with blood, bloodlines, all bloodlines, got to keep the bloodlines pure, all sort of stuff. You know, they were against all this body, the transplant of organs and blood. Oh, wow, they wouldn't have that. Not that they had it back then, but they wouldn't have had it because they wanted to keep the bloodlines pure. If blood is memory, personal memory, and that could be why there are different types of blood, and you can't just have a blood transfusion with anybody's blood. Of type O, I think you can, but a lot of people are a bit fussy. They won't accept other people's blood. It doesn't work. They won't accept other personal memory. It doesn't work. It causes conflict. It causes conflict within their being. Brain expressed, intelligent, natural guise. Within their body. Being of direct yield. Okay. Geometries of the body, of our personal reality. Fascinates me. Now, that's the main thing I want to discuss about that, about the geometry of the body. And, you know, like I said, we think porphyrins are just pigments. But what if they're not? You know, they're receptive and constructive to certain frequencies of energy. They take on board and build upon certain frequencies of energy. Now, why do we eat? Why do we feel the need, or we think that we need, food? Sustenance from everything's energy. So everything within the dream of life is energy, purposed energy. It's a frequency, a form of energy. But we're just energy. We're just energy. DNA is purposed energy, purposed thought. Hormones, purposed energy, purposed thought. Porphyrins, purposed energy, purposed thought. Why do we need to take on food? As we think, we shall become. You know, we should be able to exist by just thinking. We do exist by just thinking. It's just that we've got amnesia. We can't remember how we created ourselves in the first place and what it's all about. So we've developed all of these belief systems and methodologies. Oh, we need this. Oh, we need that. Oh, can't have that. Oh. Personal preferences. Beliefs are personal preferences. Declarations of personal preference or choice. A choice is a declaration of personal preference. Preferentiality. A product of experiential consciousness. Experience-based personal thought. That's what a belief is, a product of experience-based personal thought. Experience-based consciousness. We've actualized this virtual reality. We've embedded ourselves into this virtual reality. Geometry, the language, is a form of guidance. It represents the way energy, designs of thought have manifested the visualization. The visualization of thought. It's just a visualization of mind. Mind dreaming. That's it. Dream of mind. Now, I've been doing some studies on this, well, a long time ago I started to. Can we survive without food? If we're just energy, if we are simply a visualization of thought, can we survive without taking in those other visualizations of thought? Can we simply survive on us, on thinking? Whatever we need, we just become. Purpose thought. life, our existence. Now, if porphyrins accumulate frequencies of energy, certain frequencies of energy, like I said, plants, green, us, red energy, green energy. Fascinates me. Could there come a time? Well, everything is a visualization of thought. We ask questions. Possible answers to those questions are manifested into the dream state. That's how it all works. So it's quite possible that we could survive without taking on food. Porphyrins may be an answer to that, a solution to that. They're receptive to frequencies of light. Basic ones, like I said, ultraviolet light, they're purple. Heme, red energy. Frequency of the spectrum in the red area of the spectrum. It's worth investigating. You know, it's worth investigating. But first of all, you need to understand that this is a dream. It is a visualization of thoughts, and that geometry is that language of thought. That's why atoms form in geometric patterns. They're just energy, designs of energy. Energy by design, designs of thought. Thought is energy, energy is thought. That's just how it is. But we need to accept that. We need to accept that so that then we can investigate and go, oh, wow, you know, we were run off in all the wrong directions. Most people have been trying to analyse the dream without realising that the dream was just a reflection of our mind. It's just a reflection of our mind. Designs of thought, way of thinking. So as the mind evolves, basically, possibly from its first visualizations, the first dream were pretty basic visualizations, dependent upon so-called a juvenile mind, possibly a juvenile mind. The mind evolves. So that juvenile mind would have had basic thoughts. Maybe our idea of evolution is what that's all about. You know, amoebas, little single-celled organisms evolving into more complex organisms, to humans. Possibly that was reflecting the state of the mind. The juvenile state evolving into a more mature state, learning from its own dream, interacting with its own thoughts in the dream state, responding to those interactions, learning from those interactions, asking more complex questions, wanting to understand the dream with what has been actualized into an actual reality. The virtual reality becoming an actual reality just through belief. Preferentiality, an accumulation of beliefs. Identity itself is represented as a decagon. An icosagon. Belief is represented as a decagon, a 10-pointed design. Belief, declaration of personal preference or choice. Product of two overlapping pentagons of motive, personal thought or consciousness, interactive or experiential, motive, personal thought or consciousness. A product of experience-based personal thought or experience-based consciousness. We develop beliefs as products of experiential consciousness. Experience-based. What we have experienced in the conscious state. We develop beliefs. An icosagon is 2 decagons, or 5 squares or 4 pentagons overlapping. Intellect takes on board and builds upon concepts. It's receptive and constructive. It accumulates. It accumulates. So an identity is an accumulation of beliefs, an accumulation of experiential consciousness, what we have experienced in the conscious state, an accumulation of those experiences in the conscious state, an accumulation of beliefs forms identity, forms an identity, an accumulation of personal preferences forms an identity. That's what identity is, an accumulation of personal preferences. Fascinates me, actually. And a personality is just a product of 5 interactive octahedrons of nature. It has a more or less an equator of a double terminating pyramidal structure, an apex at the top, at the bottom, equator in the center. The equator is the icosagon, made up of 5 squares of intellect. Those squares of intellect are bases of square-based pyramids of attitude, directed up and bottom to form octahedrons of nature, or attitudinal behaviour. So personality is what that is. It's a identified nature, identified attitudinal behaviour is personality. Identified attitudinal behaviour. That's us. That's a personality. A personal reality. Like I said, fascinating. Okay, that's just a brief one. We just wanted to talk about that stuff. Geometry of the body, mainly. So we'll leave it there. Hope someone got something from it. And we'll catch up.